Show before the show shit.
Go before the show shit.
We had the Maverick 3 today.
Yep.
You are actually live streaming. You want to talk about a little bit about that?
It was good. It was fairly competitive. There were several guys and gals that we know that compete. Ashley competed in it. She went 6 for 9, I believe. She only missed her second and third bench press. Tammy went 8 for 9. She missed her last deadlift. And Bryant went 9 for 9, I believe. And I think you said he got a 1530 total, right?
Yeah.
And then Logan Leverett went 9 for 9, and he hit like 1510, I think. 1505, 1510. It was just above 1500, which is a number he's been chasing for like 2 years or some shit.
Yeah,
like,
so it was a big deal. Yeah, he's
very big deal.
Logan's a very good squatter.
He is.
Yeah.
The only place for his weight class that he really needed a big improvement on to make that was his bench press. He ended up pressing 350 something.
341.
Is it 341?
Which is a great bench press. Which
Yeah.
is good. Yeah. Proud of Logan.
He did great. I was happy to watch all of them compete. Did see, unfortunately, some people bombed out. I know there was one female lifter who I believe missed all of her squat. It was either all of her squats or all of her bench presses. There was a few that missed like 2 bench presses in a row or something like that. There were several that were some struggle bussing. Some kids in there, juniors, doing really well. I know Nick Oliver had several kids in there that were doing pretty good. I think he had some kids and he had an older lady, I believe. I'm trying to think of who else was there. Kristen's first time judging was there.
Yep.
Saw her there. Charlie was cutting some throats on soft knees. So if you ever see Charlie as a side judge on your deadlift, make sure to flex your quads. I actually, funny enough, I cued Bryant and Logan out of that in the moment I saw it. And I saw them both get the same red light. And I saw it both times. I was like, guys, flex your quads. Just flex your quads at the top. You'll get it. No big deal. Just make sure you flex your quads at the top. And in real time, I saw them Logan and Bryant just like immediately flex their quads at the top. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what you needed.
Hell yeah. Were you messaging them through their flight?
I was. Logan wasn't too close to his phone, but I was messaging Bryant frequently because he was also running the live stream. So I was helping him kind of get the live stream where it needed to be, as far as like the technical, what would be the word?
Technical side of that.
Yeah. Really all he had to do was connect to the Wi-Fi, but apparently the building owners were being weird about letting him connect to the Wi-Fi. New owners to that building. That's the first time they've been there with the new owners, so maybe it was just, I don't know. Why? I don't.
Communication.
Maybe, I don't know, but they eventually let him, so all's well that ends well. Yeah, it was fun. I forget it. I was talking about him, Travis Calloway. Insane. I mean, he's technically a master's lifter, but he competes in open still. Man, that dude's wild. He had a 705 squat.
How old was he?
I don't know, because he didn't. Well, his age is probably on lifting cast. Let me see, so that I can give some good info. I actually have lifting cast open for the Maverick 3. Let's see, where is he at? See, I think he was a 275. He did end up winning. Let's see. Well, it doesn't say. Regardless, like I said, he hit like a 705 squat, a 515 bench press, and a I'm gonna have to look because I know I missed his first deadlift. His second was and third were 677, and he missed those. His opener was 292 and a half, so that would be 640, I believe, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, 643-ish, 644. Yeah. Loaded, it's like 644, I think, because of the Dollars. 2.2 and the decimals after
right,
2.2.
Right.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a good meet. I was glad. I saw that it was going to start at 9 a.m. and I was like, "There's no goddamn way I'm waking up at 9 a.m. on a Friday or on a Saturday, my Friday night into a Saturday morning." And I don't know why. I woke up at like 9:05, and I was like, I looked at my clock, or I looked at my phone. I was like, "Oh, Maverick's on. Well, I'll turn it on, and I'll probably fall asleep watching it." And then I was wide awake for the rest of the day. So here we are on about probably 6 hours of sleep ish.
That's our favorite meet in Alabama.
It's good. It's a great meet.
Ron, Richard, Avery, Charlie, everybody involved does a really, really good job with that meet. And I like the venue. Warm-up room. It just is what it is.
It's a little tight, but
there.
When you have that many people, it's hard.
It's always a good, attentive, appreciative crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Good community vibe.
Taylor was up there taking pictures as always.
It's the best meet in the state, in my opinion. It's my favorite one, and I am a little bit biased because Richard and Ron and Avery are all awesome people, and
consider them friends.
Yeah, consider them friends and stuff like that. So I mean, that's a great place to be, and but I love that meet before I knew him well. So
right.
I mean, I really was. It's always gone smooth. It's always been great. So I mean,
I think they had 3 flights today. They got it wrapped up pretty quick. I think
that's another thing too. Is it's not a
long drawn.
It's always sold out, and it's never a long drawn out day. Most of the time, we're done by 3, 4, 5 o'clock. So.
I think it was done at 3 o'clock today. A little after 3 was the last deadlift.
So I mean, it's a great place to be in the state of Alabama. That's the one to go to, in my opinion. And then the next one, Ultimate Warrior, just because I like the venue.
Yeah, Ultimate Warrior, and it's cool because they give you those Spartan helmets and stuff. That's pretty cool. I wouldn't mind going just to win one of those, but but obviously those aren't given to best lifters. They're given to just whoever they feel like is upcoming in the community or whatever it may be.
Represented today well. What I mean?
How are they in the warm up room, stuff like that? Are they helpful? Are they being nice to everybody, cheering people on, stuff like that? But I had something else to say about. Oh, there were a couple instances. We had some inexperienced loaders that did cause a barbell to fall, almost knock out Charlie. So if you ever decide that you are going to offer to help spot and load, be aware of basic physics. Don't take off more plates than the other person has.
Be attentive and ask questions, because you're not going to hurt anybody's feelings when safety's involved if you're not sure about what you're doing.
If you're pulling off a plate, you should say, "Hey, how many plates you got over there? Yeah. Like, what am I pulling off?" Because you can pull off one plate, maybe 2. Can you pull off 2 reds? I know you
2 reds might be pushing it. But
I know 2 45s will not move on a normal bar. Squat bar will hold a little better.
Well, the biggest thing too, it depends on whether or not the combo is in or out.
That's also a factor.
If you've had big boys and they're squatting with it in, it is not going to stay as well balanced. And that's what happened at our meet. Was the mono was in, and now they do a combo obviously, but it's still the same principle. If the combo or the mono is in, it's going to tilt a lot fucking faster. Yeah. So you got to be aware of where it is. And I don't know if it was in or out because I didn't see it, but and then it's just like I said, outside of that, it's basic physics. So if you got more weight on one side than the other, like
it's going to tip.
Yeah, I mean,
and if there's someone on the other side of it, it's probably going to hit them. So
I mean, we had a volunteer's foot absolutely get ground to powder by like a 500-pound squat falling on it. So
because it was the last squat would have been Josh.
Josh Crittner. So it was actually probably it's 650 plus. Probably.
Yeah. So, probably close to 7.
So you're talking about eating, one side of the bar is 300 plus pounds.
Yep.
Plenty enough from a 4 or 5 foot fall to obliterate a
foot. Yeah.
Yeah. So
a whole foot.
That guy had that was a very, very painful injury.
Yeah.
Obliterated his foot. So
I feel so bad for that guy. He did not sign up for that.
I don't know how it wasn't an open wound, that much weight.
Yeah.
I saw the x-rays, and it was like, when I say ground to powder, I mean like
everything was fractured.
His foot is metal now.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real. So I mean,
terrible.
Yeah.
So just be aware when you volunteer for this kind of stuff.
These people need volunteers and spotters and loaders and stuff like that, and I encourage you to do it. It is a hard day. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I've done it at my own. It is what it is, but I mean, you got to be attentive, pay attention. You know, my first really bad injury was largely because of
inexperienced spotters.
Yeah, it made the injury worse. I got hurt and then didn't get caught and set under the bar for several seconds before anybody.
And it was the craziest thing because I saw you sitting there and I was waiting for them to pick the bar up off of you, and they just stood there. They were frozen. They didn't know what to do, and it was like, grab the bar. And I think Sandy was the first one to yell. They were like, grab the fucking bar. Like,
yeah. So I mean, it is, you know, and especially if you have somebody, I don't know how hurt I am at that point. So like, here's something pop. I know I'm not coming up. But at the same time, like, I don't know that I'm out of the meet at that point.
Yeah.
Like, could have just been, you know, some discomfort and get back in it. But like, that point, I don't really know how hurt I am. I don't want to drop the bar and get DQ'd, and I don't want to hurt the spotters.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not going to let go of it.
Right.
So like, I mean, that was my own fault. I probably should have let go in that moment. But like, at the same time,
yeah, but
you want to do your part as a lifter to make sure nobody gets hurt, and they just didn't do their part. You know. But I mean, shit happens. That doesn't mean the kid's a bad kid or anything like that. But you know, pay attention.
Yeah, just being aware when you sign up for these things, be aware that you're signing up for it.
Too. You know, if that much weight hits our foot or our leg, heaven forbid, that person's out of the sport for a while.
Yeah.
Yep. So, be considerate.
That show before the show. You got anything else to add?
No, I think that's the show before the show.
Cool.
Welcome to the Sip It and Rip It podcast.
There you go.
I'm Zach. He's Nathan. You can follow us at Coleman_Barbell, at Nathan Skedios, at Sip It and Rip It. There's no guest tonight, but you can watch us, actually not on YouTube this time.
You can listen to us on YouTube.
You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts. Like, share, leave reviews, 5 stars on Spotify if you can. Comments, send us DMs. Participate any way you can, and don't be a hoe. Share the show.
One thing that I've been interested in doing, and I actually talked to Zach Rodriguez a little bit about, was getting some Q&A stuff, like sending out like, hey, send us questions that you want us to answer, topics that you want us to cover. We can do like a short form, like either Q&A, typical, like you get a question, we'll talk about it for a few minutes, or like topics that we can talk for about 10, 15 minutes and then move on to the next one, something like that. If that's something that people are interested in, DM us. Let us know.
Absolutely. We need to post to that group that he put us, that powerlifting group we put it into. I really need to show the show there. But yeah, we're always looking for more participation.
Yep.
Topics and everything else. And the thing is, it's squat, bench, deadlift. There's only going to be so many topics. We rehash a lot of things.
Yeah.
We loved having Brooke on, but outside of a strange circumstance, like an unfortunate circumstance like that, we're pretty much going to be talking about training. We're going to be talking about squat, bench, deadlift, the food we eat, the way we sleep, the drugs we use. Like, I mean, there's only, so many topics, at hand. So, and there's a million different training philosophies, but hell, we've covered a lot of those too. Yeah. So, and we've done a lot of them, but,
covered a bunch of different diets that we have tried.
Yeah, absolutely. But we're always, participation could really drive topics and what we're doing, what we're talking about. So,
so it'd be awesome just to get some feedback from everybody else, all the listeners, and be like, hey, and if you want to be on the podcast, even if you're out of state, because we can do that now. Since we have Riverside set up, we can have remote guests. Just hit us up. Just be like, hey, I'd like to be on the show.
Yep, and we're open to other sports too. We've had bodybuilders on. Haven't had any strongmen. We've talked about having some CrossFitters on. I don't know if I'm that ready for that level of stupidity yet or not. My plan with that was just to have a bunch of PubMed articles pulled up and be like, actually, the science says. But logic and reason, defies those people. So,
but you see, they have their own Bible. What is their little textbook of CrossFit called?
That just, I don't remember. There is a book.
There's a book. Yeah. CrossFit Bible.
The Greg Glassman stuff has been, choked on forever. Did you see where they were talking about, they made a post recently, and I follow Hiller Fit. I think it's Hiller Fit 2.0 is the handle. And he is an enhanced CrossFitter and a very good one. He's also a very good CrossFit coach. And I don't give a lot of credit in that sport, but he is constantly picking on CrossFit HQ, and they were talking about how CrossFit isn't complicated. You need to know the 10 basic movements.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going through them all, and they only put 9 movements up after writing an article about there being 10.
God damn it.
Apparently they count their movements like they count their reps. You just got to get close enough and then round up. Yep. That's apparently how they do it.
Damn, bro.
And then judging standards, man. Yeah. He posted a video of some people doing wall balls. So you're basically, catching a wall ball in a squat.
Yep.
And you're throwing it up to a target.
Yep.
It comes back down. You return to a full range of motion squat. This guy's in the middle of this competition and like half squatting. Mm-hmm. And like the judge standing beside him is like awarding a rep every time. Like this is like universal strength standard on squat, unless it's a partial in a strongman competition. Right. Like we saw that on the squat machine this year. I know everybody bitched about it, but I mean it's strongman, right? Yeah. But like even the back squat competition, like Eddie Hall won it. It was a full range of motion back squat. Like
yep.
The universal squat standard is hip crease below the knee in every strength sport, maybe except for multiply lifting. But like other than that, like universal standard hip crease below the knee, and CrossFit preaches it religiously. And this fucking judge is just like,
I
don't know if he's just. It's a pretty popular athlete. I don't know if he was just riding the athlete's dick or what, but like,
that's bad.
It was shameful how shallow it was.
Well,
I mean, it was like Jim Bro on the leg press shallow. It was. I don't even think I could call it a quarter squat.
Man, that's brutal.
Yeah, I think him or his team ended up winning the day.
That's some trash. I would be so mad if I was anyone else in the competition and I was like second or third and I was like, this motherfucker that didn't do a single squat. And
yeah, I mean it's horseshit, but it is what it is.
We didn't talk about in the show before the show, the Olympia was this weekend too. We don't cover a lot of bodybuilding stuff, but
Hunter Henderson came in 12th, right?
13th.
Thanks.
Yeah. 13 out of either 14 or 15, I can't remember.
Kind of nuts.
I talked to Joe a little bit about it because I was curious. I saw Brianni shared a post. She was selling her finals tickets, and I said, "Did Hunter not make the finals?" Because I hadn't been keeping up with the Olympia, and he said, "No, we think she got third call out, and they think she made 12th at the time. It turned out it was 13th." And I told him, I was like, bodybuilding's a very political sport. Every judge has got a different opinion. And I prefaced it with, you already all know this. Like, you know all this already. She knows all this already. And I was like, but how many people actually make it to the Olympia stage as a bodybuilder? Like, she's of the upper echelon of female bodybuilders, period.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, no, 100%. And she gets it. And she's just ready to compete at it next year. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, it's
good to not be discouraged.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking. I was like, she's probably a little bummed out about it because she worked really hard. I know her body took a toll because she was on a from what I could see, I don't have any confirmation on this, but it seemed like she was on a pretty substantial amount of PEDs to get into Olympia.
We discussed that probably a little bit, but I said me and you discussed that probably a little bit, but I mean, those people work hard, man. I mean, there's nobody in fitness that works harder than bodybuilders. I can't.
There's
take it away
so
from
much you got to do to get ready for. Not even talking about the training and the diet, like the skincare. You have to buy a suit. You have to learn a posing routine. Posing is hard. Yeah, posing is freaking hard.
And having to do it post workout too, when you're especially when you're depleted and cramping and stuff like that.
You get a couple fucking rice cakes and a couple sips of water. Fuck, man. I
mean, it's, we talk about, we try to do what we can about training like bodybuilders year round, but we really don't come close to the conditioning or the diet standards when it comes to cut weight. You know what I mean? Like if we're cutting weight, it might be a 12 to 16 week affair and it's like a pound a week at the most. You know what I mean? So
sometimes 8, 10, just depends on how much weight you want to lose and how aggressive you want to be.
It depends on how dedicated you are to the diet and stuff like that. And I really like just upping the cardio protocol and trimming diet down as little as possible for strength athletes. But, and I like the protocol too. Off season, 10% of your body weight's what you lose to get back. That keeps it reasonable. That's for me. That's even at my size. That's 28 pounds.
Yeah.
So that's not a huge.
Yeah, you think a pound, pound and a half, 2 pounds a week, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're manipulating carbohydrates, that first 10 is going to fall
right.
off. I mean, so we're not talking about like a real long time.
Yeah.
It's going to slow down to a pound a week, half a pound a week after that first 10.
Yeah.
Like you're not talking about just forever.
Yeah.
Diet or anything.
So. 8 to 12 weeks is kind of like, to me, ideal for cutting time. Because you don't want to hit a wall with your diet fatigue and stuff, and then you're just like ravenously hungry, and then you have the problem of
I like that Dr. Mike protocol is like your diet shouldn't negatively
affect your training.
Yeah. So.
Yep, and that's one of the things I was basically going to comment on is like, man, I think I just lost my thought.
Commenting on diet and how it shouldn't affect your training, and you're currently trying to lose 2 kilograms.
Right. I'm trying to think of what, because it was something specific. It doesn't matter.
Diet doesn't matter. He has basically 4 pounds to lose.
Yeah.
And it's like, I haven't even really coached him on this, but he's basically taken out a nighttime meal. Like
I'm replacing it with casein protein.
Right? Yep.
So it's a pudding. It's not a shake.
Yeah.
And I do throw a little bit of protein oats in there. It's like a granola oat mixture.
He's probably cut his nighttime calories by half in the last meal, probably. So.
Yeah. So it's mostly just protein and water, and I do a little bit of the peanut butter powder because it enhances the flavor. Because not to knock on Titan, but their casein protein leaves some weird like toothpaste flavor in my mouth when I'm eating it, and I'm like, this fucking trash. The flavor of it by itself
I've always
is fine.
thought casein was a little bit tasting compared to other proteins.
Oh yeah, it's not the best, but casein is thicker, so that's why you can make it into a protein, and that's why it digests slower, so it's kind of helpful for cutting weight when you're trying to not be hungry at night.
Sure.
That's a Dr. Mike hack. You can also do like the 0 sugar Jello pudding mix.
Yeah.
Just throw it in there, and it gives it a little extra flavor, and doesn't add too many calories or anything. I think it might add like 10. So it's like nothing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do that. And I think that's something that's helped me reframe my mind about diet too, is like, I've always wanted to go aggressive in either direction, and you really don't have to.
Yeah.
And something I recommend, I actually made a video on this. I posted on Coleman Barbell about a month ago, but just adding 5,000 steps a day and a slight caloric reduction will pay dividends.
Yeah.
Like, at least in terms of body composition. You might not lose an exorbitant amount of weight, but
right.
I mean,
but it depends on what you're after. If you're after like a weight goal, then being aggressive makes sense. If you're after a composition goal,
but again, not to the point that it sacrifices gym performance.
I'm thinking about like making weight, stuff like that, like.
But I mean, there's a million ways to do it. I mean, like, we've talked about all those ways, 100 times. But I mean, I think that, I guess until recently, I always framed in it like, oh, I'm on a diet, I'm cutting, I'm just going to suck in the gym for the next 6 weeks. And it just shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, you just don't have to. I remember what I was thinking though, is it was coming off of a diet. We were talking about how like you get really hungry, diet fatigue shoots through the roof. You have to remember, if your diet fatigue starts spiking up, you need to go into maintenance and not a caloric surplus, because if you go straight from cutting into a surplus, you're going to gain more body fat back than you would if you would hit maintenance, wait a little while, like 2-4 weeks, your body gets adjusted to being at that weight, because that your body, your brain is very complex. Yeah. I couldn't give you the science behind it.
Well, Dr. Lane talks about it too. I mean, if you're gonna make those jumps too, it's important to continue to have your fat low when you go back to maintenance or into a surplus, because adipose tissue is more likely to store as adipose tissue because it's more biologically available to store as adipose tissue. Yeah. Carbs have to go through a process to become fat.
Right.
Fat is fat.
Yeah.
So like, and that's very, very reduced and not scientific explanation about that. That basically is just like, if you're overeating fat, more likely to store as fat. Yep. So, barring something being like extreme diet, like keto or something like that, where you're just not eating enough calories for it to store as fat.
Or you're not eating enough carbs, so it's not going through the process. So all you can burn is fat.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely exceptions to it, but I mean, by and large, as athletes, we need the carbohydrates.
Yeah. So it's more important for us. And bodybuilders too. Bodybuilders.
The really remarkable thing about it is like you get so much more food on a low fat diet. Mm-hmm. Like if hunger is your problem, low fat is the way to go because you're going to be able to consume a lot of food. Like if you eat a really, really clean diet, 2,500 calories can be a lot of food it's
you know how much white rice you can eat?
You know, if the only place you're getting fat is from fish and nuts, like
chicken.
You can eat, I mean, very little in chicken though. Like you can eat an extreme amount of food if you have just, a minuscule amount of fat in your protein source and, you're getting a handful of nuts for hormone and brain health. Like that's just, and not to mention nuts have so much fiber in them anyway that it pretty much undoes any of the fat that you're going to get from them.
You want to hear something? So, I can't remember this doctor's name. I wish I could. He was on not RP Dr. Mike, but the other Dr. Mike, the skinny guy with the glasses.
I think so.
His name's Dr. Mike. So but anyway, he was interviewing this health doctor, and he was like, he said, fruit like grapes are sugar bombs, and you might as well eat an Oreo. And I was like,
that's so goddamn irresponsible.
I was like, what the fuck?
You know what the difference is that he's not considering is the food volume. Who the fuck eats one Oreo?
Nobody eats one Oreo. Okay, so
let's talk about that then. What's the serving size of Oreo? 4 or 5?
I don't know.
I think it's 4.
Do you think I look at this?
I don't either. I mean, I eat it like cereal. I literally dump them into a bowl and pour milk over them and eat them with a spoon. Like the whole package right to the gullet, like every fucking time. But like, okay, so if the serving of Oreos is 250 calories, and that's probably low.
Right.
Do you know how many fucking grapes you have to eat to make 250 calories?
Probably the whole vine.
Probably less than you would another fruit.
Right.
But it's probably a cup. Mm-hmm. Like that food volume is so much higher.
And not to mention the fiber, the micronutrients. Like there's so many things that are better from eating fruit.
I hate blanket statements like that.
And it's
like, listen, a banana is incredibly caloric. Mm-hmm. Pineapple is extremely caloric. And even a banana being one of the more caloric fruits, it's like 150 to 200 depending on the size of the banana. Incredibly filling. Mm-hmm. Bananas make me feel like I swallowed a fucking cinder block.
If I eat 2 bananas, I get sick.
Yeah, I mean, like that's a really good trade-off though, because now like 2 bananas, two bananas and a plate full of eggs, you're not going to get fucking hungry.
No.
And it's just a ridiculous amount of volume.
Yep.
Like I have to drink my eggs because 6 scrambled eggs is hard to choke down sometimes. Like even egg whites, it's just a lot of fucking food. So like people think I'm crazy for drinking eggs, but like when you talk about whipping air into it and the volume comes up, but like that's what's irresponsible about it is like grapes are probably going to keep you fuller because you're going to have a cup of them.
Right.
Like 4 Oreos might be a half a cup of food. Mm-hmm. Like, so you at least have twice the food, the density, there, So I just don't understand.
Not to mention that, Oreos are hyper palatable. Grapes are not hyper palatable. They're good.
You're going to want more than one Oreo.
Right. I can sit there and just eat grapes. All right. Yeah. But eventually I'm going to get tired of eating grapes. Yeah. Oreos, I can eat a fucking sleeve of Oreos.
That's one of the most important things about vegetables when you're cutting weight. Mm-hmm. Like, it's because you can eat, like, literally 2 cups of broccoli is, like, probably less than 200 calories.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you are going to be tired of eating before you finish 2 cups of broccoli.
Oh, yeah.
Like, most people. Like,
we can
eat a lot of food. So we probably,
maybe a little.
And we're talking about raw weight before, it's cooked down.
Yeah.
So, like, it's a pretty obnoxious amount of broccoli. I mean, and like still, like you make a salad, like 2 cups of greens is pretty standard probably to make a salad, a big one if it's going to be your whole meal. Like that's a pretty large amount of food volume for next to no calories. It's probably 80 or 90 calories for, 2 whole cups of spinach, like maybe less. Mm-hmm. But the volume's just stupid. Like that blanket statements like that are just, I understand why, like physiologically, your body reacts to the sugar the same way. Mm-hmm. That I have no doubt he's probably right about.
Right.
But like when you take everything into consideration, like you said, the macros,
fiber,
the fiber, maybe even the macros, because you're not going to get any fat from the grapes.
Right.
Like I don't know that the Oreos are particularly fatty, but I'd imagine they'd probably have more than
a grape would.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think a grape has any.
So like the trade-off is just
right.
It's stupid good, and then like. obviously, well, I went on a rant about fiber a couple months ago on the show, but like, if you're a healthy, if you're a man eating, 30 to 40 grams of fiber a day, the importance of fiber is it undoes what saturated fat does to you, like in terms of your heart health.
Yeah.
Like, so fiber is kind of a hack, like for health in general. Like, so I don't know how you get off comparing an Oreo to a grape. Like,
you know what really got me was he tried to interrupt him as he was explaining that, about why would you choose Oreos from grapes? And he said, well, the benefits of dark chocolate.
It's fucking not dark.
Like, bro, you're not talking about dark chocolate.
You're talking about a goddamn Oreo.
Like, what the fuck? Like, it just baffled me.
Do not take it. And that's the reason why people get so confused about it. So confused.
There's too many people. Too many charlatans. Too many fucking people who don't know what they're talking about. Honest to God, they might have a degree, but they do not know what they're talking about.
Well, I think it's because they say something provocative and their Instagram likes go up.
Or maybe just their fucking all their statistics, their interactions. May not be good interactions, but
like, it's exactly. Seidman's the same goddamn. Yep. There ain't no way Seidman actually believes the shit that he fucking.
No.
And every article he gives you on PubMed is a study he conducted.
Yep.
Like, there is no goddamn way he actually believes that.
But
then I watch him and he fucking squats with his toes pointed in, to a 90-degree knee angle.
He looks like he's in pain the whole time.
He probably is.
This guy, it can't be.
Go fucking half squat fucking 500 pounds with your toes pointed in.
He's not half squatting 500 pounds. It's probably like 3 plates, let's be real.
I've seen him have 4 on it before.
4?
But like, it's still a half squat.
Right.
Like, it's so disappointing.
Oh, we went off on some tangents.
We did. What did you do in the gym this week?
Yeah. Gym this week was cool. Down week on deadlifts. We could see fatigue really hit my deadlifts. I did like some 605 singles and a drop set at 545.
Yeah.
You could just really see the fatigue setting in, and I was a little disappointed because I really thought we had kind of hacked fatigue during this prep, because I'd felt really, really good for most of the prep. But
it's prep.
This stuff just happened. So I wasn't like upset or mad. I was just kind of like, I thought we were going to do better than this.
It had to be like CNS fatigue, because what I saw was just, and don't take this the wrong way because it's not you being lazy, but it's almost like a lazy pathway from your brain to your hands.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like you were thinking about these things and then your body just wasn't responding to them as you were trying to work through.
And that there's a lot that goes into that. When you have CNS fatigue, your brain's tired.
It's a fucking neurological traffic jam.
Yeah. Pretty much. That's the best way to describe it. So not like a bad deadlift week. It just wasn't good or exciting or anything like that. Bench press was easy. I think it was 365
or 375 for the pose.
I thought it was pause. I thought it was like a 3x3 pause.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Pretty chill. Just kind of went in there, did the work. Did incline press the next session because I wanted to wait for my squat session, because this was the last big squat. So I wanted to make sure I didn't go in tired, or on a Friday before work. I was like, it would help to get on the mono, kind of like limit all of the fatigue and all of the stress and have somebody there to spot me and stuff like that. So we pushed it to Saturday. Friday did the incline press, incline close grip, did 285 for 8, pretty easy. I hit 315 for 3 last week, and it was easy. They were all paused, and it was just kind of like I couldn't find an RP 8.5 because I didn't have time to. So we were just kind of like, we're just going to do some back offs and then, get the rest of the stuff done. So that day was good. I made sure to put in kind of like not necessarily minimal effort, but just tried to get a pump and like not fatigue my CNS. I didn't want to push anything heavy because going into that squat. So squat was today. I don't normally lift on Saturdays, but my week got a little turned upside down, so did it anyway. Hit 565 for my top squat, and it moved well. So That was exciting.
Significantly better than the first time under that weight.
Yeah, the first time I hit 565, I was crumpled over. I was an RPE 10. I was like, holy crap, this sucked. I'm hurting. Like, it was bad. This time I came away feeling good. Like, and that was just the biggest win because
what was the playback on that? Because I didn't really get to rate an RPE. I didn't watch it back.
You can just pull it up.
8.5, 9 maybe? Probably less than a 9 though, to be honest.
So I don't like making statements on that because I don't think I could have doubled it. Like that's just honest truth. Could I have put more weight on there? Yes. Could I have doubled it? No. So saying it's an RPE
9.5.
I mean, truthfully, I could have put more weight on there, but I could not have doubled it. But it's on my Instagram. Why am I scrolling through all this shit? You can watch it back in real time and tell the audience, which they can just watch if they look at my Instagram. So
yeah, I would say like a 9.25, 9.5.
Like I had more.
Gun to his head, maybe a struggling double.
A double would have been tough. I'm
definitely with you on it. Yeah, 100%. But also when he's talking about putting more weight, we're talking about like 5, 10 more pounds.
Yeah.
We don't think that he had 600 today.
No. 600 is something that is like kind of a
could be in the cards after hitting that.
It will be a meet day call because it will depend heavily on how everything is moving, how my CNS has recovered. You know, there's going to be a lot to think about before we make a decision. Is it going to affect my bench and deadlift? Because we don't want to affect those.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me with Nathan, and I told him this in the gym today, is he's probably not going to win a meet on squat.
Nope.
And he's not upset by me saying that. He knows it. Just is what it is. He can win a meet on deadlift.
Yeah.
So the important thing on squat is that we do want a platform PR, but we know we're not setting records, and we do have to preserve what could potentially be a really big deadlift.
Yeah.
So the decision on that, and even, I guess you could say maybe he was borderline a little light this prep on squat. I think we got it about right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, saying we had 570 or 575 today is probably not out of the cards, but we don't have to have it.
Yeah.
So like, maybe it was a borderline a touch light, but all in preservation of a much bigger deadlift.
Yeah.
Potentially, 180 pounds or so bigger.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really, really important, that we preserve deadlift, because that's the deadlift that could fuck somebody else up. It's not a squat that could. So we have to put our money on the one that we trust the most, and it happens to be deadlift at the moment. So. And again for bench too. Because there is elbow fatigue, lat fatigue in a squat. So I mean, could he squat 600? At what cost?
Right.
That's what we have to weigh. So.
And it's kind of one of those things, like the state record is like 606 or something. So it's like
it's within striking distance.
It's at the point where it's like, if I were to go to 600 and I get it, I'd still be disappointed because it's not the state record. And if I go 10, 15 pounds below that and I absolutely crush it, I just be like, next time. You know what I mean? There's
always next time. And like I said, powerlifting is the art of self-preservation when it comes to being healthy, staying healthy, and then preserving your total on meet day. You got to make calls that protect your biggest lifts. And for Nathan, what did you post the other day about Nathan? Is your deadlift not like 40% of your total or more?
Yeah.
Yeah, so exactly.
That's almost half my total.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he has to have the deadlift.
Now that was
and we know
old
that,
stats,
and everything else is going to be, everything else is going to come up, and it's fine. But we know we have to have the deadlift.
Yep.
So don't feel bad about that at all.
Nope.
My week with Ron was great. Continued to do a bunch of floor pressing. Had dumbbell floor presses this week, barbell floor press. Did get a hold of a pretty light bench press. I think he had me do 350 for a single, back downs at like 245 for 3 sets of 10. Won't say that they were snooze fest. I thought that they kind of were, like, in the moment, but I actually ended up doing it with a pretty good pump. So it was good. Front squats can tend to be the bane of my existence.
Yeah.
To a tempo. Very humbling. Front squatting weight that I could overhead press for 15 reps.
Right.
But I'm doing it to a very slow tempo. It's what I need. Not going to argue. He knows it's what I need. There's nothing to argue about because I know it's fucking working. So
right.
I'm not. So I don't want to sound like ungrateful because I know it's exactly what I need. Trap bar deadlifts are continuing to be productive but weird.
Do you feel them in your quads? You feel yeah.
Way more. I've never deadlifted and left with a quad pump, and now I feel like I do. And I do think that his idea of the trap bar making me use my legs more in the deadlift is probably going to pay off because I'll tell you this too. It's apparently a glaring weakness of mine, but I find the trap bar to be more difficult than a straight bar. And that's not too terribly common. I mean, you see people with 500-pound deadlifts put 700 on the trap bar and lift it, and I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm working well below my 1 rep max on a straight bar. So I do think we're tapping into something there. That's I have always been had a hard time fighting the CrossFit cue of everything being in your heels when you deadlift, because that's just how I learned how to deadlift. And that's actually something me and you worked on, was staying more in my forefoot when you were writing my blocks. And I think I think it's absolutely helping. But I think the thing about the trap bar is it makes it make more sense.
Yeah.
And also because it's a different apparatus, you don't have the ability to manipulate it back to where you're comfortable because it's already uncomfortable. So like, since it's brand new to me, and I've never pulled seriously on trap bar, it's probably paying dividends because that's just how you have to pick it up.
Right.
I mean, so it's very, very good. And then squats were amazing. Doubles
Never
on
thought I'd hear that.
Doubles on SSB. Pretty. RPE was supposed to be like closer to an 8, and it was still like a 6. Pretty lightweight for me. It ended up being like 390 loaded, 389 loaded because of the size of my bar, but I was programmed 380. Stupid easy weight for me. Back downs, which what I was impressed with was volume tends to hurt me more than heavy weight does. It was a breeze. Like not even getting out of breath, like just destroyed my
just
my
feeling
drop set.
comfortable.
So, yeah. Probably the best I've ever squatted consistently and pain-free.
Yeah.
So it's really, really good. Of course, y'all know I had a big SSB squat in the off season, so we're still working pretty sub-maximal. I feel like doubles into the 400s are probably coming this week.
Yeah.
But I honestly think I'll move them at a 6 or 7 too. So
yeah.
Definitely not intimidated by squat for the first time in a long time, except for the front squats.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with leg strength. It has everything to do with
postural
the position
strength.
sucks. My posture's even good. Like they're good looking front squats, but the tempo, just the control, everything top to bottom is just fucking tough.
Yeah.
And to do I've done a lot of pause front squats before, but to do a tempo on the descent is incredibly stressful.
Yeah.
And it's really making you fight for position.
Right.
And honestly, it's doing for me the same reason one reason I prescribe them. I mean, you've talked about this on the podcast before. There's a million things that you can do better for leg hypertrophy because, like, it's an awkward load. It is uncomfortable. And, like, you could leg press or SSB or high bar or do lunges or a million other things that are better for the growth of your legs. But what front squats do to me is it changes the way I look at a squat in general. Yeah. It mentally makes me a tougher squatter.
Right.
Because they're fucking hard. So, I mean, there is some psychology at play, I think, with him programming those.
Makes sense.
And then time under tension fucking works too. We know that. So the tempo is definitely not unproductive. But there is, I think he's playing with my head as much as he's playing with my body at this point, to be honest with you. And it's good for me. So gaining confidence. So that's a great thing. I looked it up to qualify in open for nationals. I'm going to have 600, 440, and 710.
Yep.
I'm not super intimidated by the 440 or the 710, but that 600, even at my body weight, is daunting.
Yeah.
I'm a long way away, I feel like, on a straight bar.
Yeah. I
feel like I'd hit it on an SSB before I'd hit it on a straight bar. So, but got a lot of work to do yet. So I can definitely qualify as a submaster. I think the qualifying dots on that's like 350, but as an open, it's 450.
Yeah.
And I have to have 1750 to qualify at 275.
Right.
So I considered it.
Yep.
I really like the direction we're going, and I really like that he's making me move different and more athletically again. It's very uncomfortable, but it's fresh and it feels new. And then going from a very, very long bodybuilding split that's 6 or 7 days consistently to 4 days. I made the comment to you. I feel like by the time I'm ready to lift again, I feel like a caged animal. Like I look forward to lifting at the moment, and that hasn't happened in months. So
it might also be because you have somebody programming for you, because you're not thinking about it. You don't have to stress out about it.
Yeah, that's such a relief, because I hire Ron because Ron's somebody I trusted before I even knew him personally.
Yeah.
I knew, it would be a good thing for me, but just letting that be somebody else's problem and just trusting the process is just so much easier on me mentally. Don't have to wonder what I'm going to program next. I don't have to have workarounds. Like, he knows what the workaround is going to be the same way I would if I was programming for a client. So like, it's been a really good thing. Now, 50% of my workout being core. It's something I needed, but it's definitely been a pain in my ass, figuratively and literally. But it's definitely something I need, because he's really working on my ability to basically stay under pressure.
Yeah.
And how I handle physical pressure. I'm not talking about mental pressure.
Yeah.
He's trying to make me more resilient, and I think he's going to do that, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
If I do one more plank, I'm probably going to fucking vomit. But I feel like there's probably a lot more coming.
Yeah.
So I'm along for the ride. It's been really great, really fresh, and I feel strong already. So honestly, the shorter split too, I think it's doing wonders for my body composition. Very, very under recovered before, and every time I'm in the gym right now, I feel a little bit stronger than the last time I was in the gym, and that's been a fleeting fill-in for me.
Yeah.
Now I was, admittedly, the reason I was beating myself up like that is because I was attempting 75 hard. And I didn't have an option. I had to work out 7 days a week. So, but it's been a really, really, really welcome change. So got PR songs?
Yeah. I can find some.
So, a rap single for me.
Oh man.
Yep. If I can actually find which one I want to put on here, fuck.
I go ahead with mine, and it is Malevolent Haze by Aborted. Aborted is
fucking rules all the time.
Man, that song, so good. Aborted, that whole album, and I said that last time I put a song off of The Shape of Hate. I was like, that whole fucking album is a PR song. Just go listen to that whole album. But that song, I heard it in the gym this week, and I was like, fuck yeah, this is where it's at.
You know what? I'm not going to put, although the record's really good, Big X The Plug, the new shit's really awesome. I'm not going to put it on there because I listened to it on the way over here, and now I don't know which one's which. So I listened to the whole album. So I don't know what to tell you. Although that record is really fucking good. So go listen to it. So we'll go a weird shoegazy band for me. They're a little bit heavier than most shoegaze is. If you don't know what shoegaze is, it's very, very washy, especially in the vocals. It tends to be long-winded, and it's pretty simple music for the most part. But there's a song called Amphetamines by Violent Vira. It's a really fucking cool song. Surprisingly heavy for the genre. And I fucking like it. Listen to them. So, female-fronted. So,
cool.
Yeah, cool shit. I feel like you've been a little bit more my speed lately, and I've been a little bit more off. I've been out in the outfield wandering around lately with my PR songs.
You know,
I'm a super big Aborted fan, so like,
it's one of those things. I guess I'm listening to a lot of heavier music because the intensity in my lifts are shooting through the roof, and I have to be up for these. So
I listened to through my SSBs the other day. I put headphones in for the first time in months, and it energized me in a way that like pre-workout couldn't have done.
Yeah,
it just felt really fucking good.
Just not to have to hear that shitty music those kids play, man. God damn, it's so bad.
This is what, surprisingly enough, the kids that were in there that you're referring to, they were playing a pretty shitty playlist today, but they actually probably get pretty good taste in music and play some good shit sometimes.
Do they?
I'm generally happy most of the time when they're the ones on the aux.
It was rough.
I mean, it was rough today, but in general, I tend to be a little bit more sympathetic to them. Yeah. They're mostly pretty decent stuff.
Yeah.
They listen to some pretty heavy shit sometimes.
I did not hear a single heavy thing. When I was
Not today. Not today. It was very, very bad, like generic radio rap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
I shit on Drake all the time, but that's pretty much the kind of shit that it was. Like fucking Disney rap.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking dumb.
Yeah, like
weak shit.
if I listen to rap, it has to be like hard. Like it has to be like aggressive.
You need to listen to that Big X the Plug record then, because it's fucking. It's. I feel like it's really aggressive and it feels good, but I'm like Wu-Tang super fan, so like I want some aggression in my record.
Yeah.
In my rap record, that's all there is to it. Like somebody needs to be dying. It's the same way I feel about metal.
Yeah,
like
true.
Somebody after the course of the song, someone needs to die. Like, that's how I feel about it for the most part.
I don't know. Kill Switch is still good.
I mean, yeah, it's like that's like if I need if I feel like I'm a little fucking down and need something positive in my life, Kill Switch is something I still read.
Kill Switch is super positive and heavy. So
yeah. So I'm not against it. It's just 99 times out of 100 I want
violence.
I want fucking violence. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like music like that before I lifted heavyweight, so it just is what it is.
Same.
Like,
I mean, that's just
like hyper violent. Like I'm a huge Acacia Strain fan just because his lyrics are hyper violent.
Their music's just good too. Their
music's hyper violent.
Just want to run through a wall.
Yep.
Hope somebody's on the other side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Speaking of, I listened to 3750 came up in my playlist the other day, an old Acacia Strain song. And that song fucking rips still. Like, I love their shit so much.
Yeah. I can listen to most of their records front to back.
Yeah, same. Yeah. I know every word.
I don't know every word now.
It's something I've hung on to for a long time.
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of music does really huge wonders for my mental health, to be honest with you. I think it's incredibly cathartic. In the same way that like watching a horror movie is cathartic for people. You know what I mean? Like they're not actually going to go out and fucking do those things.
Yeah.
Like, neither am I.
Right.
but it's cool to fucking sing about. It's awesome. And they got the riffs. That's the most important thing. They got the riffs. So,
man.
So what are we getting into today?
Mostly just talking about prep things. So my thing was, I talked to you about it a little bit at the gym, kind of just a general overview of kind of what to expect when you're in prep, as far as like body awareness, mental awareness, fatigue awareness, how's your central nervous system, like kind of things to expect, ways to avoid getting bummed out when your fatigue spikes really hard, just sort of basic stuff.
I like the word awareness because you have to be aware of fatigue and how you feel and stuff like that. You also have to be aware of the fact that in a peak, it's largely unavoidable until the taper starts. And that's what Joe had posted about too. There's not a single one of us that enter a peak that aren't a little bit beat up and a little tired and a little ready for it to be over with.
Yeah.
Attitude starts to wane, starts to suck a little bit. Yeah. And not in the sense that you don't want to do it anymore, so much as like
it's exhausting.
You're exhausted at this point. Like
it's just like I have to.
There's a little bit of motivation in the fact that it's almost over.
Yeah.
Like so, I mean, it's not like it's a lazy attitude.
Yeah.
It's just like, God damn, I'm ready for this to stop. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, you think about torture.
Yeah, I mean, it's death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah,
it is. And then when it's over, it's over.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, for us, these things last in a bond. It might last 5 or 6 weeks for some people, but for most of my athletes, it's 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Long. I mean, we're going to try to get your last heavy deadlift, depending on the lifter, 2 to 3 weeks out. Last heavy squat, 10 to 14 days out, and then last heavy bench, 7 to 10 days out, depending on the athlete. So, like, you're basically going to have 2 weeks where it's going to get a lot easier.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty big deal when it's, basically 3 to 6 weeks long. 2 weeks is a pretty large portion for it to be easy. So much so that, you almost wonder if you've done enough by the time it starts to taper. But he used the word awareness, and like, you have to be aware that 1, it's going to suck. 2, you're going to be a little bit beat up. You're going to find yourself in situations like Nathan was the other day where you're deadlifting extremely light and it feels like a PR every time you pull it. You're going to find that you're just a little bit more beat up and uncomfortable in general. At this point, the mental fatigue is pretty real. Besides the physical fatigue, you're ready for it to be over. You're beat up from thinking about it. You and your coach are probably spending time discussing numbers. So there's a little bit more of a mental stress.
Yep.
You also feel a little bit more, and this is something me and you were getting away from in Austin too. You feel a little bit more pressure to lift that heavy weight.
Yep.
A little bit more pressure to,
I need to know I have this.
Yeah, I only have this many days left. I need to know I have this. The pressure to come out of pocket becomes very real for intermediate athletes and less. Like, oh man, if I just hit this week, I know it'll be there on the platform next week. And very little regard typically for the fact that might actually cost you that weight. The next week. So it's very, very important to kind of hit it within those numbers. Like I said, 14 to 21 days out on deadlift. We're talking about 10 to 14 on squat, 7 to 10 on bench. And they could even go, and Nathan being a really big bench presser, I think we're maybe closer to 14 days for him on bench press. But we're, for the most part, you want to kind of be within those numbers. You really only have 1 or 2 heavy deadlifts a month in you.
Yeah.
Let alone when you're getting ready for a big time meet.
And just a slight caveat there: if you are a better squatter than you are deadlifter, you may want to reverse those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when we talk about fatigue and CNS fatigue, the overall load is what's going to drive that CNS fatigue. So if you are a really good squatter, you may want to squat heavy a little earlier, or at the very least, give yourself some more time.
That's definitely true of squat and deadlift. Obviously not so much a bench press, but 100%. I would say that you would have to be, because deadlift is, because of the nature of the pull and the way it loads your spine, is probably 9 times out of 10 going to be the higher CNS demand regardless, unless you're someone. Even Austin's not like this anymore. He pulls more than he squats now.
Yeah.
Unless you're somebody like a pro heavyweight, 275 plus.
Yeah.
So 275, 308 or super heavyweight. Unless you're a pro heavyweight that we know is going to squat potentially 150, 200 pounds more than you deadlift. Probably not the case. But then you do have outliers like Mason's a very, very good squatter. That would be somebody that I would probably want to squat
a little
further out. Yeah. For sure. Like to try to preserve him a little bit more. That doesn't mean that you're not going to touch heavy-ish weight anymore, but your attempts 90 plus are gone.
Right. That's,
you may be squatting more like, honestly, 75 to 85, probably not even really coming close to 90 to be honest with you. And they're probably going to be singles.
Yeah.
The female athletes, I might have double stuff, last couple of weeks, but I mean, everybody handles that differently too. Your fatigue, your fitness starts to wane, so your upper body fitness decays faster than your lower body fitness, which is one of the reasons why we want to push, your bench press later on into a peak. But also you still have to. Just because you're tapering doesn't mean you get to quit lifting heavy.
Yeah,
and heavy is pretty relative. Like I said, I'm talking about probably, depending on the athlete, maybe 70 to 85%.
Right.
I said 75 to 85, but so you're still going to be touching heavy weight.
Right.
And it might even be a good time where, I don't do this personally, but with somebody whose fitness may decay a little bit faster, so heavier athletes, females, stuff like that, we may even up the reps a little bit when we start to taper. But by and large, we're not going to, we're not going to touch anything above 85%. The last couple of weeks. So,
and you can always change up your lifting to accommodate that. If you feel like you need more stimulus, it doesn't have to come from weight. We do
like
pause,
one thing we've done
tempo.
for Nathan is his drop sets on squat have been to a tempo. And they've been aggressive drops. Like today, his drop was 150 pounds.
Yeah.
We don't mind that because the stimulus from a 415-pound tempo squat is probably about the same as him backing off and squatting singles at 475.
Yeah.
With a lot less CNS fatigue.
Yep, exactly.
But, in terms of stimulus to the muscle, overall stress to him, it's going to feel probably really similar.
Yeah.
So, it's just not a whole lot of reason to put yourself at risk. And also, the heavier the load, the more at risk you are for injuries, even if you're not injury prone. So, you can become injury prone pretty fucking quick.
It only takes one time.
So what we're doing too is it goes beyond just managing fatigue. We are also beginning to let you heal. because you're best when you're healthy.
Yep.
So that includes a lot of things. We talked about what an ideal powerlifting season would look like a few episodes back, and that episode did really, really well. Unless you're going to be Nathan's situation is not to the point I feel like he's going to have to water cut. We've discussed this, but like your dieting should be pretty much done and wrapped up at this point, unless you're going to have to water cut,
right?
To make weight. But by and large, like the daily demands of a cutting diet should be, you should probably be back at maintenance or maybe a slight deficit.
And one thing that a lot of people
to help you heal,
right, that they may not think about is that once your inflammation goes down, you'll lose body weight.
Yeah, absolutely, because you're not going to retain as much water. Fluids are going to drop. You're going to feel better, lighter, more athletic, and you're also probably going to like you said, physically be a little bit lighter. Yep. So your body's not going to retain as much food and as much water because it doesn't feel like it needs to heal all the time. So as you start to heal up and as that stuff, your body weight probably drop. You're not going to see
pounds and pounds,
maybe 1%.
Yeah.
So if you're 280 pound person like me, maybe 2 to 3 pounds close. But that's still when you're talking about having to make a weight class, that's still
substantial.
Still pretty substantial. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's probably one of the reasons why Joe's protocol works so well, is because on top of the water loading, you get rid of all that inflammation, then you colon cleanse and you pee out the rest of it and you dehydrate, and then you're just like, wow, I'm 20 pounds lighter. Yeah, that's an exaggeration, but not super far.
And I will say too, you need to be within. If you're going to water cut, you need to be within striking distance of it. You really don't need to be. If you're 20 pounds overweight, a water cut's not going to save you. Yeah, it's going to take away from performance. You've missed it. Move up the weight class. I mean,
unless you're at nationals or higher, because they won't let you go up or down.
I mean, you have to make weight at that point.
Yeah. They will let you change your weight class up to a certain point.
But let me tell you that if you're trying to water cut 20 pounds, you fucked up.
Right.
I mean, maybe like a super heavy
or a pro, like someone who knows their body.
That total percentage of their body weight, 20 pounds is a relatively low number for them. Maybe with somebody like that. But like I think by and large, you probably, if you're going to try to make 20, you've probably fucked up. I'd say anything over about 12, you probably fucked up.
I've seen 15 and 18.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him. I would like to know, and I can't, because I'm not going to sit here and just talk out of my ass. I'd like to know what the success looks like.
Right.
At 15 to 18.
Yeah.
I know both Jawan and John Hack have had some pretty fucking aggressive water cuts before. But I'll be honest with you, those two guys are so fucking skilled. They're going to put up a world-class total on their worst day.
Right.
I mean, they are. They might not set their own PRs. They may not break their own records, but you're talking about two men that are so exceptional that
I would definitely put Joe Sullivan in there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for
sure.
Talking about manipulating body weight for sure.
Talking about like a 240 pound dude who cut to 220.
Yeah, I mean he said on the podcast that didn't air that he was literally cutting to a weight that was less than his lean body mass on a body scan.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you do have people like that are, really, really comfortable and adapted to it. But for most of the powerlifting population, I'm going to say that if you're, 15 plus pounds overweight, you've probably missed the opportunity to water cut and it be successful.
Right.
That's not to say that, that's something that's a good skill to learn. So it's not something to say that you shouldn't go through with it anyway.
I would say in regards to that, it is a skill. It is something that you have to practice. Do it at a meet where it doesn't matter if you hit your weight class or not, so that you can go up or go down.
Don't want to risk it like in the situation that Austin Nathan.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Austin's fortunate, and he's still 11 pounds underweight.
Right.
If that motherfucker puts 12 pounds on between now and
2 weeks, literally 2 weeks,
he's fucked up. You know what I mean? Like bad in the opposite direction.
He just went.
And fortunately, he has a really physical job now. So like his job is helping me keep him lean while gaining weight. So, but he was so under, he competed at 275 at about 255 pounds this last time. He's weighing about 264 now. And that weight is, you saw him this week. He is moving weight.
Yeah.
He is. So you need to, it goes back to another conversation. We're talking about cutting, but you also need to fill out your weight class. If you have earned yourself a caloric surplus at this point, this is the other side of the coin here. If you have earned yourself a caloric a caloric surplus, because you're either lifting lighter most of the time in the weight class you're going to compete in, or you've just been diligent and dieted appropriately and stuff like that. You need this caloric surplus in this last, 3 to 6 weeks. Fucking eat your food. Don't eat bullshit. I'm not condoning, stuff that's going to make you bloat, like high FODMAP foods, really greasy foods, stuff like that. They're going to affect performance immediately.
Yeah.
Like you can't go and deadlift a heavy single with heartburn. You're going to vomit.
Yep.
I mean, it's going to suck. Same thing with squat. Bench press, probably the same for some people. But like you've earned yourself a caloric surplus. Now in this moment of, we're going to ask you, not only we're going to ask you to be the strongest you've ever been in your life, but now we're also going to ask you to start tapering and start recovering. We need the surplus if you've earned it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's another, like I said, it's the other side of that coin, but that's something that you really probably need to consider.
Yep.
If you have a little bit of weight to cut like Nathan, you need to do it via diet and probably not via water cut.
Yeah.
And we're going to try our best.
And
I'm of the opinion that if he's still heavy the week of, a day or two of low carb would probably flush enough water out of him to do it without a water cut, to be honest with you.
I think that the first thing I would do is a colon cleanse, because that's very low-hanging fruit to lose a couple pounds. It does suck. It does hurt a little bit. Your asshole gets burned. I'm just being straight. But aside from that, it's super easy. It's like $2 for a bottle of mag citrate. You just have to be willing to be strapped to a toilet for an hour or two.
Yeah.
Once you get it all out of your system, you're pretty light.
Yeah.
I mean, you feel like, I remember when I did it with Joe, and I did the colon cleanse, and then I was like doing the peanut butter and protein shakes day. I felt so empty. I wasn't hungry, which was really weird. But I just felt empty, like super, super light, super empty. Like there was nothing inside of me at all.
Sure.
It was a very weird feeling. And I don't know that I'd say I'd recommend it. But it is something that if you ever have to water cut or something like that, it'll change your thoughts on things.
I will likely be in a position where I have to water cut, especially potentially for nationals.
Yeah.
Because I do typically, even if I'm eating well, I typically just weigh more when I'm on a performance enhancement.
Yeah.
And part of it's the compounds I use. Upping my testosterone typically makes me retain water quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then Tren makes me keep body weight quite a bit. And I'll be honest with you, Tren does just ridiculous things to my hunger.
Yeah.
It just drives, I'm insatiable the whole time I'm on it. For better or for worse, or for, whether it's healthy food or not, I will eat anything you put in front of me. And it's just, I'm a bottomless pit on it. And it is what it is. I walk around about 285 now, so 275 shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
Even via water cut. I
think that hunger,
I would like to not water cut.
Right.
But, knowing me.
probably in the cards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really would like to be in a position where I could maintain a surplus as long as I can. And that's partially to mitigate fatigue and increase my likelihood of not being injured.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a NORS 19 thing with that hunger, because when I was on, I can't even think of the name of it anymore.
MP?
NP, yeah. When I was on NP, or MPP, not just NP, I was super hungry all the time.
Yeah.
Put a ton of weight on. Because I think I took that after my weight cut when I was at like 200 pounds.
Yeah.
Well, not directly after. I did like kind of normal out, got about to 230, took MPP, hunger shot up, got up to like 250. So it'll put weight on you fast.
Yeah, and that's strong. I'll be honest with you too. Me and Nathan had this conversation off air. 19 NORs just aren't, in my opinion, super reliable weight gain or strength gain.
Yeah.
They do amazing things for your strength, but I just find that to be unreliable.
Yeah.
Like if I use a performance enhancing dose that's only testosterone and just simply go from TRT to basically doubling my dose, that strength hangs around when I go back to TRT.
Yep.
If I use Tren on top of a little bit more testosterone, insanely strong for the 10 weeks that I use it.
Yep.
And I do see, I'm not saying it's like a 10% hit.
Yeah.
But I do see probably 2 to 5% drop off in my lifts.
Right.
It's just not reliable strength.
Yep.
And it's very disappointing in that regard. The muscle built typically kind of is, but total weight, body weight,
yeah,
and then total strength is just not super reliable. So you have to use that. Personally, I'm using it now because I was on 75 hard and I needed the recovery.
Right.
Honestly, and I had a bottle given to me, but honestly, I could have achieved the same thing just doubling my test.
Yeah.
Really. But I do just find that to be super unreliable strength gains. And Brandon told me that way back in the day when I was with him. But a point that Nathan discussed, and we're not going to say who because I don't like discussing somebody else's drug protocols without them knowing. But we do have a acquaintance that we're pretty friendly with that said that it can be beneficial 3 or 4 weeks out and not run a whole cycle of it because the strength gains are fucking large. I mean, they are. That's just not super reliable.
Yeah, so. And that's one of those things that's like you're about to go into a competition, a pro level meet, and you really, really want to perform well at this pro level meet, go for it. Like if you can handle it mentally, I mean, 2 to 4 weeks, probably perfect.
A word to the wise on that. Whatever estrogen blocker you're using, even if you don't double the dose of it, if you'll just split it up and make sure you take a little bit of it after post every shot, really, really helps the mental aspect.
Yeah.
I was a madman for a little while. And then finally we just said, oh, you know what? If I just split this anastrozole up, it'll probably take care of it. Sure as shit. Like dosage didn't change. I just take a half tab twice a week instead of 1 tab once a week.
I mean, there are symptoms of high dose testosterone that I am avoiding by taking it daily. So like microdosing, well, it's not really a microdose, but microdosing regularly, it just does, it levels your hormones out well.
And there's no dips and there's no peaks and valleys. It kind of keeps it even. And even on a TRT dose, you can even sub-Q your testosterone, which we found out relatively recently, which is super convenient because a real pen is much more painful than a sub-Q injection.
If it'll move, now it won't move in an insulin needle.
Well, no, but you can still put it
in. You can put it in with a much smaller needle.
Yeah, absolutely. But it being oil-based, it's not going to, it's probably not going to move out of an insulin.
Yeah.
But still, that's something to consider. And it probably will knot up, being honest, because it's oil-based and not water-based. But,
So you will get some bumps wherever you put it, if you put it sub-Q.
But anyway, it's just one more way to do this.
Yep.
But by and large, this whole process is undoing the previous 12 weeks that we've taken to tear you down and beat you up and make you stronger and hopefully a bigger, stronger, more resilient person in general. And now it is our time to
show it.
To show it and to recover from it.
Yep.
Even our drop sets, stuff like that, like total volume is much, much less across the board.
Accessory work.
Accessory work's even a little bit less, though I am a very big fan of keeping high volume accessory work in because it keeps your fitness high and because we should always have a bodybuilder mindset about building muscle. Building muscle doesn't stop because we're powerlifters. I mean, it can't if you want to be good at it. But, by and large, we've got more tempo. I don't remember what I programmed. We've got more tempo work on accessory work. Maybe dropped a set, maybe dropped reps a little bit. Intensity on my bodybuilding protocols is always kind of play it by ear. How do you feel that day? Because my protocol for my athletes is don't care what, don't care how, leave with a pump.
Yep.
Now I have the movements and the tempo and stuff prescribed, but if Nathan feels like he can get on the leg press and get a pump, he's doing single leg press right now, so he definitely could. If he feels like he can get a pump with one plate, great. That's less CNS fatigue for us. Like, we need the work. We need the blood flow. We need the hypertrophic effects. We don't necessarily, at this point especially, we don't necessarily need the CNS fatigue.
Yeah.
We've got plenty of that, by this point. So, I mean, I guess in total, that's probably the thing. And I think the most mismanaged thing is taking attempts too late into a peak.
Yep.
And then panicking because you haven't done the right thing the 12 to 16 weeks prior about diet.
Yeah. I think one thing that I really wanted to touch on was kind of like the mental side of things as far as like stress, things you can do to kind of avoid getting worked up about upcoming lifts that you have. A certain level of anxiety is good because you need to be up for your lifts. You don't need to be stressing about them while you're sitting on the couch. If you're sitting on the couch, you need to be relaxing. So don't let yourself, and I'm bad about doing this. And it's really hard for me to kind of block it out. And I have to kind of like block these things out with other things. I have to distract myself. But if you start thinking, what about this lift? How's this going to go? Am I going to get this? And you get really anxious. Your heart rate kicks up. And you're like, oh God. Like,
that's affecting your rest and your recovery.
Yep, exactly. So some things that you can do to avoid that. Not necessarily a great thing. It's not something I do, but you could, use CBD to in your
or THC,
just kind of mellow out.
I say just get away and live your life.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to learn to separate
the gym from,
especially at this point.
One thing that I remember, I can't remember who it was, but I remember hearing this because I thought it was really funny. They were talking about who are your best athletes, and it was like, it's the guys that go really hard in the gym for 2 hours and then smoke weed and play video games all day. Those are the best athletes because they keep the stress here in the gym and they don't stress about anything else. They just recover. Like I remember Joe talking about it at one point, and he used very scientific terms that escape me, but he basically said, minimize the amount of stress outside of the gym. Yeah. That's the best way you're going to recover.
Sure.
Obviously, the basic stuffs: eat, sleep, hydrate. Like those are things that you should already be doing.
Sure.
Can you think of anything like?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, just learning to live your life separate from the gym is huge. But then like, I'd say be active. Make sure you're doing like your steady state cardio. I'm not talking about going for a jog. I'm talking about like
walking,
stay on your feet. That's really good for recovery. Continue to eat well.
Play with your dogs.
Play with your kids. Take some time. Be a dad.
Or a mom.
If you're lucky enough to be self-employed like me, fucking, do what you can the last 4 weeks to mitigate outside stress. Might not be the best time to add 10 new clients.
Yep.
It's not going to be the best time for me to be, to have 10 more programs to write every week. Those things are, those things that you want for your career, but that's maybe not the time and place in that present moment. You probably don't want to book a meet when you're going through huge life changes.
Yeah.
Me and Nathan just had kids.
I did do a meet directly.
Yeah, he did. I bet he probably wouldn't recommend it.
Nope.
If you're selling your house, buying a new house,
renovating your house,
jobs changing, stuff like that, might not be the best time for you to go to compete. Even personal stuff, divorces, breakups, stuff like that. Now, some of that stuff's the timeline could be unavoidable.
Yeah, especially if you already planned something.
You probably, if you can, you probably don't need to be, if you're not in a good headspace before your last 8 to 12 weeks start, it probably may be a good time to assess. And stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, live your life outside of the gym and don't take it home with you. Very hard for me, especially to separate my ego from lifting. I feel like a lot of my self-esteem is tied up in what I do for my career and what I do in the gym and stuff like that. Because of all, in a sense, not when it comes to my music career, but in the sense of everything else, I always kind of feel like a nobody. And that is a sport that makes me feel like somebody that does, give me a lot of confidence and stuff like that. But you do have to be smart enough to say, the gym's the gym.
I'm at home.
Life is life. I'm at home right now. You're going to have discussions probably outside the gym with your coach and stuff like that, but you need to leave them in your DMs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, don't not respond to your coach, but let the conversation be the conversation and let it be done. If CBD and THC works for you, that's great. Personally, I do use it. That being said, I feel like it negatively affects my CNS the day after use.
Right.
Part of that may be because I don't use it regularly. And I kind of get the green over effect.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't think well. My body doesn't fire well. It may just be because I have a relatively low tolerance, and I like to keep it that way because when I take something, I want it to work.
Right.
So I only use it, once or twice a week, and I try not to use it the day before a heavy lift.
Right.
I'd be okay using it on like my floor press day, something like that,
or just like the weekend, because you're Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, so you take it Friday night, Saturday night.
Get a couple of good nights sleep in because I took it. Like that's Gucci, completely okay.
What's really been good for me as far as sleep and recovery is MK677.
Very good.
That knocks me out.
And it's a precursor to ghrelin and growth hormones. So both those things are going to help your recovery. Ghrelin is your hunger hormone, so it's going to likely mean that your appetite could see a spike. But one way that we mitigate that is taking it at night instead of in the morning, because it is a hell of a sleep aid. And me and him both got the blood works to prove it does increase your HGH.
Yep.
And it's much, much cheaper than growth.
Yes. Growth is incredibly expensive.
Yeah, and it's one capsule a day. It's so easy.
Yeah.
Like it's very low hanging fruit.
Unless you get the oil.
Yeah, that's
not injectable oil. It's mouth oral oil, and it's. I don't put it under my tongue. I put it in the back of my throat, because if you try and put it under your tongue, sticks around. If you put it on the back of your throat, you still get the effects of it, but it doesn't linger as bad. It's pretty rough though. That shit's rough.
But that's pretty good. I don't know what the testing protocol is, so I would say maybe avoid that if you're a drug tested lifter.
Yeah, I think it's because peptides are tested for, so probably MK677 would be tested for.
But it is super low hanging fruit, super cheap compared to growth. Absolutely increases your growth hormone. Definitely helps with sleep. And the one thing that we're forgetting that you're doing right now, and there's a reason why we've been drinking our Scooters coffee. Thanks, Richard.
Thanks, Richard.
Catherine Neese for that. Is alcohol.
Yeah.
It does affect recovery. It's going to negatively affect how you sleep. It's going to negatively affect several things. But one big thing is if you're on a PED protocol, it aromatizes testosterone. So you're going to have more conversion from testosterone to estrogen if you're drinking a lot, which is going to negatively affect your attitude and negatively affect your recovery. So as much as I like to hit it, I love my whiskey.
Prep is not the time.
It is not. Yeah, prep in general is not the time, but sure as shit ain't the time during a peak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'd like to say we can go all 8, 12 weeks of prep. 16, whatever. Whatever
some people
some
people can just do that. Some people don't like to drink. Some people are like, it tastes like shit. I don't like the way it feels.
Some people, if you're a couple drinks a week person, might not affect you that bad.
Right.
But it is terrible for you on a PD protocol.
Yeah.
It's terrible for you anyway, but you don't want to you're basically like pissing in the wind PED wise if it's aromatizing estrogen, you don't have the appropriate things to combat that, and you're leaving gains on the table if you don't quit. And I realize there is science behind. I think Lane Norton talked about a drink a day can actually increase testosterone, but very, very few American people have the wherewithal to be able to stop at a drink.
Right. I would be one of those oddballs, but
you would be, absolutely. If I start drinking, I'm getting after it.
Yeah.
So it's not with the exception on the podcast here, we have one or two apiece.
Yeah.
That's fine, but most of the time if I'm drinking, I'm drinking.
Right.
Just it seems obvious, I guess, to some extent, but it's actually could be pretty serious.
Yeah.
In terms of the way it affects your recovery.
Yeah. Depending on how much you drink, how much you like to drink.
And just another PSA about the THC thing. If you're like me, have a low tolerance, maybe it's bad. If it's something you're already doing, it's probably worse to quit it.
Right. Yeah.
So don't take that as gospel and say that you have to quit, you have to quit it. I will say I much prefer an edible or some type of oral to smoke, because whether you like it or not, and you hear potheads talk about, you can't get lung cancer from smoking pot. That's bullshit. If something's getting burned, there's carbon monoxide present, and there is, it is going to affect your breathing.
Yeah.
Whether you believe it or not, I don't care. But the fact is it's going to affect your breathing. So, if you have if you have it available, even a dab pen, I know it's still smoke, probably going to be a little less harsh than actual green.
Yeah.
But I would prefer an edible. You're going to sleep better. It's a little bit longer lasting effects. It's going to do more for your recovery because it is spaced out a little bit more. You're not going to get high as quick, but like in the context of what we're talking about using it as a recovery agent and not for recreational purposes.
Yeah.
So, definitely probably have a preference for an edible.
Yeah.
So
another couple things you could do for like positive brain health, lion's mane mushroom capsules are useful. They will actually, this is a study that I heard about a long time ago, which is one of the reasons why I started taking it was because of depression and stuff, but it supposedly can reconnect serotonin receptors in your brain. Obviously this is stuff I read online. I don't even remember the study that it was. I don't know how true it is. That's just one of the reasons that was like, oh, I should buy this. But it does promote positive brain health, so it is something good to consider.
Yeah, response to cues, stuff like that might be important. Especially if you're a newer lifter, you're probably working your commands a lot, stuff like that. Could be really helpful. Little things like Nathan did today. He's very comfortable on a mono lift, but if you haven't come out of a mono before, might be beneficial. To use some type of nootropic or brain health drug, something like that. Another thing we talk about all the time on the podcast, so it should be low-hanging fruit for anybody listening, the nectar or the iridescence, pretty powerful brain drugs too.
Yep,
so.
Absolutely. That's the next thing I was going to say is nectar specifically, because I believe it is, if I'm not mistaken, it's heavier in the choline than iridescence is.
Correct. Iridescence is a 4-part compound.
Yes. So you would get, if you're just looking for the brain health, fat loss, a little bit of endurance, nectar is going to be what you'd want to reach for. If you want performance in the moment and also additional like brain help, iridescence will help with that. You can take both of them if you feel like you need both of them. I've felt like iridescence by itself has been wonderful and I don't need any to impact any further.
Sure. I'll say this too. I much prefer this at this point because I've seen it work now. I much prefer this at this point to pre-workout, especially in a peak, because over-caffeinating is going to affect how you sleep.
Yep.
Could make you anxious, nervous. Yep. Could have pretty serious repercussions on recovery.
Yep.
And though I have had one athlete in particular said that he kind of got a little anxious on it.
Yeah.
It's probably still not going to be as bad as 400 milligrams of caffeine straight to your fucking dome.
One thing that these different products will do is they will put you up. So that anxious feeling he had probably was his central nervous system spiking up.
Yep.
So he may have interpreted it as anxiety, but that may not necessarily have been what it was. But I'm not going to speak for him because everybody reacts to things differently.
Sure.
So.
And I have had one athlete say that it didn't make a difference.
Yeah.
And that's, I can't lie to you, that person in particular, he don't mind me saying it, but it's Chris. Chris is in your weight class, but Chris is significantly looks like a larger man, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 6'4" or 5. Very, very big person.
Yeah.
He might have just not taken enough.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
for his body weight. Yeah, for his size, I guess.
Total size. Yeah. I also think that he consumes quite a bit more caffeine than you do.
Yeah.
So it might just been kind of nil in a way where it's not for you. But that's the only negative thing I've had on it. And then the iridescence apparently hurts like hell.
It doesn't hurt me, but
I've had people say the injection site pain's pretty extreme even compared to other PEDs.
Pussies. No, for real. I mean, I took iridescence today before my squat, and I was like, God, that's such an easy injection. Like, I don't know. Maybe
part of it being easy too is me and you were so used to oils and it being water based.
It's just like it just goes in. Like,
if you've ever had a bad UGL oil, and you put it, I put it in my thigh.
Yeah.
So like, dude,
when you get a big knot in your thigh,
there's been times I couldn't fucking squat because of a PED injection.
Yep. Same.
Thank God I'm on pharmaceutical shit now.
Right.
And then the only UGL stuff I use is pretty high quality.
Yeah.
Thank God though, because some of the shady UGLs, and what it comes from people packing too much powder into the suspension oil. Like Test 400 doesn't exist.
Right.
It shouldn't anyway. Like prescription is 200 milligrams per milliliter. Like, so really they're putting too much powder in the suspension, and then it's just fucking thick.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's just too much.
It's too goddamn much, and it hurts. So so it's not as viscous as it should be. So it doesn't sit well.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking awful. So, that might be a good point too, is I want everybody to be on a TRT protocol that's going to use performance enhancing drugs and to do it right and get their blood works done. But I know a lot of you are going to use a UGL, but you should shop you need test 200, test 250.
Yeah.
You do not need
400.
These gimmicky shit where it's like test 400 or shit like that. Like, cause it's just going to cause a shit ton of post-injection pain. And, then you're not going to move worth a fuck. You're not going to be able to train. So, hell, I mean, I've tried it with UGLs, like moving where I pin from my butt cheek to my shoulder. And it just, whatever it is, if it's a bad compound, it just
hurts.
Fucking hurts. And every now and then you get, a problem with the UGL is it's dosed right and it's just a bad powder.
Yeah.
And, it's super shady. So get your blood work done and just go to your fucking doctor.
Yeah.
Let your insurance pay for it if they can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or at least get it heavily discounted,
Yeah, at least. So, I mean, might be a good time to start looking at that kind of health too when you're in peak, because like a lot of us like to use an oral 4 to 6 weeks out, and that's really, really hard on things. Like, but the TRT protocols made me a believer in balance. Like, you can overdo these things. So like, if you're getting to the point your blood's so thick you can't breathe, and you're just not performing well in general because you're unhealthy.
Yeah.
That's hopefully you haven't waited to your peak to figure these things out. But like, there's a good chance at this point that if you're feeling that way, you probably fucked up earlier. I mean,
and at this
that's
point,
one thing I didn't realize early on was like, balance is more important than more.
Yeah.
If you can take more and be balanced, it's cool.
Perfect.
That's one thing bodybuilders have down. They got that fucking shit down real well. But like, if you can be balanced and be able to take more, that's great. Higher testosterone is never a problem. But if you're out of balance, you're out of whack, and your blood's starting to get thick, and you're starting to see bad side effects and stuff like that, if it's starting to affect your health, regardless of how strong you think you are, it's going to negatively impact your strength and performance at some point. It's fucking going to.
Yep.
It might come in the sense of an injury because you've outgrown your fucking joints.
Yep.
And then you're not going to fucking press your best, deadlift your best, squat your best when you're hurt. You're not. So like,
did you see Mikey, that one of the trend twins
tore a pec off the board or something? Right? Like,
you want to know why? He was doing partial range of motion bench press. He was trying to hit 585. His joints weren't able to support it because he's been on so much gear for so long, and he doesn't do a full range of motion bench press.
And 585 just happens to be enough to put you in a full range of motion.
Yep.
It's amazing how gravity works. Like, that's so people shortchange the range of motion thing so much. But the thing about training to a full range of motion is it makes you safer in a full range of motion. Because if you're in the gym and you're trying hard, eventually you're going to get under a weight that's going to put you in a full range of motion. And you need to be able to get out from under it.
Exactly.
Same thing happened to the Larry Wheels guy, the guy that was working out with Larry Wheels. Never done a fucking full range of motion incline before in his life. Goes in and thinks he's going to press with Larry
and just gets fucking shit ripped.
Like, maybe you should just do things right.
Right.
And like some of us, I've been very much somebody that has to learn these things the hard way. But people are always surprised and nearly don't believe me when I tell them I'm stronger on a TRT dose than I was blasting a gram of gear a week.
Yep.
And it's one thing is because I never have to come off, and the second thing is it's because I'm just healthier.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Right.
An athlete being an athlete, being a little bit healthier than your peers goes a long fucking way.
It does. It does. See, what else did I say at the start of the episode? I said fatigue. We talked about fatigue. Yeah. We talked about the mental side of things. I feel like there was one other thing I mentioned that I wanted to touch on. Now I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
Oh, well.
Might be a good time to, don't let it interfere with your workouts and stuff. A good time to maybe start, if you have it available to you, some ultrasound therapy, heat therapy and stuff on your joints. Might be a good time on your on these shortened weeks and the shortened workouts to have some massage work done, up your cardio, especially if you're a couple of pounds out.
Just to be active.
Yeah, just to be active.
Especially the last week of prep, or the last.
Because fitness does decay, and that was a point I made earlier. So your fitness needs to remain. You need to remain fit.
That's why you don't need to take the full week off. You need to go in there and do some very, very light work, a couple sessions.
Great time to work commands.
Yep.
100% okay if you do that.
Very lightweight. We're talking like 30%-ish, maybe 40. Nothing crazy.
No, it doesn't have to be at all.
Just something that's going to get you enough weight that's going to...
Specifically, upper body fitness does decay fast. There's a reason why high press frequency works for so many people. 2+ times a week, like, will tank if you're not, moving a little bit.
That's one thing that I definitely noticed with Joe's programming. My final week before going into the meet, I was pressing 225 and squatting 235 because the muscles just recover faster. So like you don't have to worry too much about what you're doing. So just easy.
No, I don't have to worry about this with Nathan, but I'll just reiterate. While you're under that easy weight on your last week, practice your commands because nothing is going to make your coach have an aneurysm faster than a good lift that's missed on a jump rack command.
And then also anything technical that you feel you need to work on, perfect time to do that. Just drill some cues, whether it's with your hips, your knees, your chest.
It's not the time for wholesale changes, but if they're cues that you've been working on and feel like you need more practice on, it's a good time to do that.
Just getting comfortable with
slack
the
pull
movement.
in the deadlift.
Yep.
That's something you can easily do with 2 or 3 plates.
Yep.
If you're big enough like me, I'm gonna float up to like 4 plates. So you get a good enough slack pull that you're floating the bar a little bit. Like drill that. Maybe some postural things in squat. And then I think the only really outlier on bench press is probably going to be maybe leg drive and command work.
Yeah. You could have like stuff with your hands, like bending the bar, protecting your armpits. So a cue that elicits the same response. Stuff like that. Maybe like you said, leg drive. That's pretty much it. If you have to keep your head down, keeping your head down.
Yeah, that depends on the fed. I'm working on that currently. I'm not in a fed where I have to keep my head down, but it's another point of contact. So I will say I would never coach a head up bench press.
Right.
That's something we tried to correct in Austin, and it's just a little too late to correct it at this point. But it's another point of contact. It's science. Greater surface area is going to allow for more power transfer. You can argue with me all you want to. That's science.
That's why I do a flat foot, instead of on my toes.
That's fair. I have to do it on my toes because my hips rise. But I mean, again, it's very individual, but that's a great point. I've noticed Ron has his feet very much out in front of him.
Yep. The first time I noticed it,
I never coach it that way, but that's something that works for him. It's not none of this is one size fits all.
But the first person I noticed doing that was Julius Maddox.
If you can get good leg draw from that position, why not?
Exactly.
I mean, it's less slack in your leg, so theoretically it should, in theory, it would keep your butt down better.
Yeah.
I just can't feel my quads
right
in that position. Me being long-legged, I'm sure that's something me and Ron could work on. I could probably get to that point. But I haven't had my hips come off on the bench press
it also could be
ages. You know what I mean? It's kind of a if it's not broke, don't fix it thing.
It could be an ankle mobility thing too.
It could be.
If you have more mobile ankles, you could still get your legs back and have your feet down. Or there would have to be some sort of trade-off with the amount back or whatever.
Yep.
But
I know that Ron would have a very if he listens to this, he might message and chime in on this. But he probably has a very, very practical reason as to why he does that.
Yep.
And listen, you can't argue with a guy that has a 500-pound bench press.
Yep.
I mean, clearly, you know what I mean. It's fine. It works.
Right.
So like, I'm very much of if I don't care what their credentials are, if they're better than me, I'm going to shut up and probably fucking listen.
Right.
Even if I don't necessarily agree, but like, there's probably
something behind it.
There's probably some very, very good knowledge coming from it. And, he's very much somebody that I'm going to listen to regardless.
Right.
But just as a whole, if you're better than me, I feel like you probably know something I don't. You know what I mean? So gonna listen.
Yeah.
You know, you can get good information from a lot of sources.
Mm-hmm.
You can get good information from people that are worse than you.
Yep.
It might be what not to do. But,
right.
But good information is good information, and can't really. If you're an intelligent person, you're not gonna fucking cherry pick where the good information comes from. But you know, that's something that I could very much see myself swapping on. But, you know, just depends. But yeah, I think that's pretty much covers it.
Yep.
I have programs for that, bud.
No, you're good, man. I was thinking it was getting a little late anyway, so get some dad jokes in.
Yeah, go ahead. I have not got any pulled up because that's my usual problem is not having dad jokes pulled up.
Hey, listen, I've got us covered. I just gotta pull them up.
Good old trusty rusty dad says jokes on Instagram.
So the doctor told me that my prostate was good. I was deeply touched. Are you ready for that?
Time's a ticking.
I think about that sometimes. I'm like, oh man.
Why was the broom late for the meeting?
Why was the broom late for the meeting?
Overswept.
What's the difference between jelly and jam? You can't jelly a copy machine. Fucking dumb.
That's pretty dumb.
The recipe said to set the oven to 180 degrees, and now I can't open it because the door is facing the wall.
What should you do if you're addicted to seaweed? Seek help.
That's pretty good. Someone stole my car last night, but left their mobile phone in the parking space. I went from Kia to Nokia overnight.
I tried to sue the airline for misplacing my luggage. I lost my case. That's all I got. Because we could go on forever on this. Teslas do not have a new car smell. They have an Elon Musk. That's all. That was too good not to share. I know I said I was done. I'm done now. Officially.
Yeah, I'll wrap it up there too.
Well, guys, that was the show. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, listen to or watch us on YouTube. Like and subscribe there. Leave us comments. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify. Find us on Instagram at Coleman_Barbell, at Nathan Skedios, at Sip It and Rip It.
Shout out to Scooters.
Shout out to Scooters Coffee. Yep. We did not make it by there tonight.
I had some this morning though, so shout out.
I don't go a day without having it. I can say that, and I genuinely, I messed up and bought. Coffee is very much the thing. And once you get used to a brand, it's hard to change. Mm-hmm. I messed up because I thought I wanted another brand the other day and went and got it, and it was fucking disgusting. And I'm very nearly shocked by that because it was a favorite of mine. And
you were just disappointed.
It's very, very hard to swap coffee brands. Yeah. And that's why I was resistant about them to begin with, because it didn't taste like the coffee I was used to. Now I'm used to them, and I'm like, I can't go back. I don't have another brand of coffee change in my life. I don't have that left in me.
Right.
It's too stressful. I mean, when you count on it for I've kicked pre-workout.
Yeah.
I have up to 2 coffees a day or a coffee and an energy drink a day. So I'm not taking an absorbent amount of caffeine anymore. So it's kind of crucial to your morning to be able to drink your fucking coffee.
Yeah.
Right? So I was a little shocked that I just I didn't even just dislike it. I hated it.
Yeah.
And it's something it's the same order I've put in for years at this place. But it's better to support your friends anyway. Yeah. And now all of a sudden I like it a lot better. So drink Scooters Coffee.
It's good.
Absolutely. Don't be a hoe, share the show. Sorry, Andy Frisella, don't sue us. I just like it. I'm a fan. This is out of fandom, not out of disrespect.
The what is it? The most sincere form of flattery is imitation.
Yep, that's what I say.
I did that backwards.
Imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. Yep. Well, that's the show, y'all. Bye.
I'm
sorry. Bye, y'all.